All right, good morning, everyone. What day it is? Thursday? Oh. All right, it's the first Thursday of the month. It's 8 a.m. Must be an EPC meeting. Welcome, everybody. We we have a quorum, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So let's get going. Number 1, call to order. Or ordered. Number 2, roll call. Oh, we're getting a super quorum. We just go down the list. Yeah, right. Yeah. Right. Good morning.
Got the right guy in the room.
All right, so committee members, Lynn, Craig,
Here.
Dale, Mary Ann, Chris, hello, Ray, Barry, Vic, Bud, not here, Randy.
I'm here on Zoom and we'll be, sort of in and out with helping with my kids this morning. But if you need me for something, please speak up and I'll try to join and can get to my computer.
Great, thank you. Yeah, Bud wrote to me. He had an accident a few weeks ago, and he's still recovering. So he's, yep. Yeah, it's been a tough time for health, isn't it? Yeah. All right. We did the roll call. Any item, oral communications, items not on the agenda, anyone wants to talk about, bring up. All right, Ray?
I've got a couple. I'll be brief. One of our fellow citizens, Jim White, who's inspiration and responsible for the Willow Commons, reached out to me regarding requirement for any new construction in Portola Valley has to have a ERRCS, an emergency response radio repeater system in the facility, in the building. This is so first responders can get, if they get into a building and they can't reach their communication systems, this local repeater will get it out. It doesn't have an issue with the concept. The issue is apparently the regulation requires them to have 2 particular channels of first responder capability, but the 2 that are used in our area are not those 2, so he's got to have 4 because the code says have A and B, and we use C and D. I've simplified it. He's already talked to the fire department. Anyway, he's reached out to me to make us aware, asked me what the story was, and I told him about our experience of how we solved our ham radio issues here, because we are at the very south end of the county. Oh, that little puppy there. Anyway, he didn't know what our role or responsibility was. We had a nice chat yesterday afternoon. He's going to continue to work it, and he says he's talked to the town council and others. Anyway, it may come back to us. I just put this out there I was unaware of the code. Tom, you may have some thoughts about it. I don't know, and I don't want to make a big deal out of it right now, but. Please. Obviously, it's not role.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. That's more of a fire prevention's role. So I'm not fully up to date on how that code actually works, but I do know they test for our area. They use 2 channels. They use Command 51 and Command 11 for testing. Here in the South Zone, the county split up in 3 zones, North, Central, South. In the South, our primary channel is Command 11, but we also need a secondary backup channel. So we use Command 51 for that.
Okay.
They're all repeated up and down the county.
Yeah.
Of course, our closest repeaters aren't here in our district. Some people think they're here in our stations. They're not. Our stations are not set up for that. So the closest repeater, we have one in Belmont. We have one in, I forget what the other one is. But anyway, so they're
pretty far away.
They're pretty far away, right? So we do have some dead zones. Even in our fire stations, we had Station 7 failed our ERPS testing.
Oh.
Because of the concrete and the way it's constructed. A lot of new buildings now, with all the hardening that's there,
Yeah, steel.
it makes them a little bit better harder to transmit in and out.
Yeah.
So that's why those, I just received an email. I think Kim will follow up with
Yeah.
Jim on a response back to him. So
It's just be aware.
Right, sort of an FYI at this point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's an FYI, but it's a pretty interesting one,
is
actually.
interesting,
And it may need sort of a global fix instead of a specific fix, but we'll
Yeah.
see.
That was my first reaction too, when you first told me, is maybe there's a single solution, much like we
Right.
invented one on the amateur radio side.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a single tower repeater kind of thing that could solve.
At 56 Granada, we'll put up another tower. Anyway,
We're finding these issues downtown Redwood City, a lot of issues because all these high-rise buildings that are going up, radio signals are being blocked, so that it's big high rises are happening, put them in there too.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
happening everywhere.
So anyway, so it just FYI.
Yep.
Ray,
Uh,
what building were you referring to?
The Willow Blends, this is new
Because
construction
I
by
got an
Roberts.
email about,
Yeah, yeah. The second thing is just, he also remarked about water pressure in fire hydrants and wondering if we were part of that or not. So, and I said I'd find out. And I think, Chris, when you and I talked, didn't we investigate that once or?
There was a time a number of years ago where we were tracking fire hydrant tests and inspections, and they were happening by Cal Water, but I mean, that's got to be
Yeah.
a decade or so ago.
There was no action to that. He just wanted me to bring it to our attention, so. And I'm gonna wait and see what he comes back. Yeah, okay? Okay, that's it, sir.
All right.
Ray,
thank-
may I ask Ray a question?
Yes.
I have a neighbor on Meadowwood that said that they're having real problems in getting reception 1640, which is the emergency,
Put it on 1680. just-
16, excuse me, thank you.
That'll
Thank
improve
you.
it right away.
It's
yeah.
early in the morning. 1680. And I was just wondering, is that atypical or are there other people that are having some issue there?
Well, this is the first reported problem.
Okay.
Geography matters a lot, and weather conditions and stuff like that because of the frequency. When we set it up, we did a drive around, right? And there's some dead spots up in Ladera. I'm not Ladera, up in Las Troncos, thank you. But on Meadowwood, that's down
Right.
central Portola Valley,
Right,
right?
yeah, it is. That's exactly right.
Well, give me the address. I'd like to drive by and see what I got.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I'll tell them to follow up with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else? Oral communication not on the agenda. Oh, we have one in the audience. Oh, we have two in the audience. Go ahead. You stood up faster.
Good morning. I'm Helen Walter. I'm your council member liaison. So I just wanted to introduce myself. I don't know everyone here. Sorry, I'm a couple minutes late, but looking forward to working with all of you.
Thank you for coming today.
There we go. Is that on now?
Yes.
Okay. So a couple of things. So, formally, my role is the chair of the Cable and Undergrounding Committee. So I want to bring a couple of topics that are up just for public comment here. One is with regard to cable undergrounding. Really comes back to this notion of how do we make sure that safe evacuation routes out. One of the discoveries from the other fires around the country has been power poles coming down. We had started some of the work back in 2019 to underground the power lines under the PG&E Rule 20 sections. PG&E wound up not being able to do anything during that time, but it's one that probably we could coordinate to go back and revisit. The other piece around evacuation is some of the big trees that would come down, and particularly the eucalyptus. You know, there's several stands of large eucalyptus along Portola Road. I think Alpine Road is clear. I did a drive, but I'm not a tree expert. And so one of the notions came up, and I mentioned this out in the lot yesterday to one of y'all, which was just a notion, which is, you know, what if we actually had a town campaign to take the eucalyptus out? And might be a two-pronged approach. One is like, again, finding if there's matching funds or county funds or whatever fire preparation funds are out there. But then couple it with some inaction so that if people have a eucalyptus they don't take down, they have to buy a license to keep it. That's as you would a dangerous dog or anything else. But use that combination of funding to then help underwrite people getting rid of the eucalyptus and moving them out. And that's particularly germane along the evacuation path, but anywhere where there's a fire, if the eucalyptus goes up, they're pretty much Roman candles for setting other things on fire. So a thought there. Last piece is one that I mentioned, that I did together with Lynn. We put together a Firewise community for Old La Honda, the Woodside Highlands and Wyndham Circle in that area. So parts in town, parts together with Woodside. But the Firewise community actually seems to be something which we would probably try and encourage for other sections of town to get involved with. I'm not sure what extent the coverage that now exists. There's a direct benefit for residents in that it usually gets to either about a 2% reduction on your homeowner's insurance, as well as getting better fire preparedness. In addition to making it apparently slightly more difficult to have people lose their homeowner's insurance. One of the remediation paths is being part of the Firewise community. It take about 9 months to set up. So again, I think emergency preparedness might be a role to help provide guidance on how it's done. Again, let individual neighborhoods take the lead in doing that, but I'm not sure what the coverage of town now is for that. I think the ranch has one. The Highlands now has it. I'm not sure what other parts are covered.
All right, well,
There are others that are covered.
Yeah,
Westford,
I
there's-
have no idea the extent of it. So just even publicizing that might be helpful and to galvanize some of the other
Yeah.
into action.
we do celebrate them here when they happen, so that they're part of the Woodside Fire Protection Report when they happen. And
Right, yeah, I'm just saying, as a resident, I mean, before we did ours, I had no idea that they existed. I had no idea who in town had them. And
Interesting.
again, it took us about 9 months to get ours done and all in place? Correct, yeah. It's called, Firewise. Okay. Yeah, and as I said, the parts of towns are covered. I'm not sure how much is, or I guess sounds like you guys may know a little bit more about where they're covered, but again, getting coverage out to everyone is genuinely helpful because it's savings, but it's genuinely helpful because it's also some fire readiness and ability to provide outreach. One of the things when I met with the fire marshal about a year ago, one of the questions that she was looking at was just getting some contact mechanism of being able to how to send things out. And the Firewise community maybe wind up being a method for having announcements that get out to the neighborhoods. Right, that's it.
Once we submitted our application, we heard back in 2 or 3 weeks.
was really
We were
fast, yeah.
approved. It was amazing.
Yeah, and my homeowner's rate cut by 2% with 24 hours later. So it's genuine benefit. Thanks.
all right, thank you very much.
I can't name all the 8 areas that we have Firewise communities in, but yes, as of right now, I think we have 8 total within our district, including Woodside and all the other areas. I think the one that's in progress now is Ladera is working on their Firewise community. So that's all I have, but we have information on our website. There's a ton of information available.
Yeah, from what I understand, Firewise is coordinated through WPV Ready. And I know Chip is a super expert. Chip has been shepherding all these groups through and then through the fire department. So we support it, but it's certainly, I don't think it's been historically under our charter since CERT is so strong.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. It's something we talk about at every EPIC board meeting when we do the ready reports. It's always part of it. And in our monthly meeting, we hear about it, but it's really not or it hasn't been historically something that we've worked on to promote. It's kind of happening through CERT, which is a strong organization. But as always, you find that you think you're telling everybody and you're publicizing it, and in fact, it doesn't get through to everyone. That's just a fact of life, and we could try to do better.
Helen, did you catch that?
Yeah, the point I was making is that that's really driven not by us, but by EPIC and by CERT and by the fire department. And I mean, it's a pretty strong organization. There's a real effort inside of EPIC to do that. It's discussed at the board meetings, it's discussed at the regular CERT meetings. And Epic is the parent organization for WPV Ready and WPV CERT.
And they have real experts there. Chip Swan in particular, WP Ready has a true expert on getting this written and through and through.
All right, any other? Let's see if I can see people in the audience. Up. I have one more comment. All right.
Well, I'm on. Ray has been having huge problems with our AM radio. It's been lasting 6 months and it's a technical issue with getting tech support at the town. And I think this committee needs to be aware of the number of myriad hours Ray has spent supporting AM radio. And we are now in a situation where we're probably in violation of SCC rules because we can't turn the thing off and on. And the AM radio may even be down this morning.
Well, I was going to bring that up in my communication report. I'll defer to the chairman what we want to.
I'm happy to talk about it right now.
Okay.
I mean, it is, let
Yeah.
me just put it in the context that it is one of the 4 priorities that we proposed to the town council
Yeah.
when we gave our
Okay.
report.
So let me give a summary, if I could. So I'll start. 13 years ago, we stood up an AM radio in this town and it worked great until about a year ago. It's been in different locations, but we settled on having it here. Part of the capability of the radio, not only is it broadcast.
Ray, could I ask you to just hold for a second?
Okay.
Helen, if we could have your attention for this one, it's an issue that requires possibly town council. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Ray,
Good.
you-
Okay.
yeah.
It transmits on 1680, just a thick, 1680 and 10 watts, and it has really good coverage, I think generally speaking. It also transmits on the internet. It sends out a stream. We've got links on the town website and I have it on my phone and stuff. So anyone can listen to it anywhere, anytime, even in Israel when I go to Israel. So about a year ago, after we'd installed it down here at the town and got it all tweaked up, it stopped functioning, stopped streaming. And it had turned out that the IT group that manages the town network had disabled the port in the room where the radio is. And it took me a while to get them to figure that out. Ultimately, we did figure it out. Anyway, the other thing we need to be able to do with the radio is change the message. So we have to be able to turn it on and off. That's an FCC requirement. Every transmitter in the world or in the country has to have either a human sitting there, be able to turn it off when it goes crazy, or you have to be able to remotely turn it off. All our amateur radios have that capability. Our repeaters have that capability. So I have installed at the radio a switching system that requires internet in order to do that. So we lost streaming, we lost the ability to turn it on and off, and we lost the ability to change the message remotely. So the only way to change the message was to physically come down to town with a USB stick, stick it in the radio and update it. So for the last year, I have been trying to work with the team, and I had a face-to-face meeting in October explaining all of this to them. And the fellow at Stepford understood it and said we'd get right on it. Well, one thing, time passed. And at the end of December, I said, look, this is something I have done in other places. I know exactly how to do this. Why don't I meet your team down at the town hall and we'll just do it together. So calendars being what they are, we had a scheduled meeting for yesterday at 10 a.m. So I came down here at 9:45, got myself all ready, and I sat in the town hall room by myself until 1 o'clock when someone showed up. I didn't sit idle. So after about 15 minutes, and I was texting and phone calling them and emailing them and getting no replies. I said, well, I'm going to try to figure out how to fix this myself. So I actually did find a hot Ethernet port in town. And I've got the technology on my computer to figure all that out. Anyway, found a hot Ethernet port, reconfigured everything, got it streaming, got control, remote control, and all that was necessary. And so I was wrapping it up, documenting it, taking screenshots, and the guy walks in at 1 o'clock. And I was like shocked anyway. So I told him what I had done. He said, well, I said, boy, it'd be really great if you guys could turn on this port in the room so I don't have to drag wires through I had drug a wire out of the room into a port in the main conference room because we had to get it on the air or on the internet. Anyway, long story short, he got all that fixed. I sat down and showed him what I'd done. He was so cool and all this sort of stuff. And I spent another hour getting that all buttoned up. Talked to the boss on the phone. Life was good. We still did not have the VPN, the ability to update the message, but we had control. We had streaming. I actually confirmed it with our streaming vendor. I called him on the phone and said, do you hear us? He said, yeah, we hear you good. I left about 2, went and got a cheeseburger celebrating the moment. And by the time I got home at 3 o'clock, it was destroyed. They had completely taken it out. They took out the piece of equipment that they had provided a long time ago. It was off the air and I'd lost control. So at 3 o'clock, you might have heard a loud scream from up on my hill because I just could not believe that they had decided that whatever, anyway. So it's on the air, but it's not streaming this morning. I have no control. And I'm not sure what to do except to do nothing because I am just sort of tired of it. So anyway, I'm starting to get wound up, so I'll shut up. But it's not fair. I don't know who these people are. I don't know who manages them. My last comment with the guy yesterday on the phone from my house, I said, we have to have wireless access. If everybody shows up in an emergency, they're going to have to get online. Well, they'd turn that off. They'd pull that piece of gear out too. And I was just like, I couldn't believe my ears. He said, well, I'll have to talk to somebody about that. And I was like, buddy, we've been working on this for a year. You know what the specs are. Anyway, I'll shut up. So I'm not touching it again until we own it, Mr. Chairman. So I would make a recommendation that we get off the town network, we get off the town WAN, we get our own connection to the internet. I don't know what it costs these days, and get control of it because this, they come on Wednesdays between 10 and noon, maybe. It's just not cutting it, and we're down. And if we had a fire or if we had a problem and had to change the message, one of us has physically got to come down. And anyway, so I'll shut up before I say something I shouldn't. Thank you.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you, Ray, and thanks for not only the number of hours you put in yesterday, but the number of hours you put in over the phone trying to explain it so that they would do it. And I think you're being generous when you say it's only been a year, because I'm thinking back to the meetings I've had with prior town managers who have agreed, oh yes, this is very important. We'll get on it right away. And it's been longer than a year. I'd have to go check my notes exactly. And so I share your frustration. I think probably the whole committee does. And I would say it's one of the 4 things we proposed to the town council under the communications part for 4 priorities for the year that we have to decide either. And I proposed that this committee would be willing to take ownership of the radio, but then we would need access to it. We got to be able to set it up. We have to have the policies and procedures all agreed, some of which are partially in place because we did work through that at one point, or we give it up and we give it to town, which is how it was decided to do in the past. And then town owns it and we stop banging our heads against the wall trying to help. Because it, as you say, it just isn't fair. It's not right. It's not a good way to treat volunteers. And it's not, the outcome is not proper for the town. So I think when we go through the feedback from the presentation to the town, I think we will say that most people I've talked to, and I have had a chance to talk with our liaison between then and now, and I've had a chance to talk to Craig Taylor. I've also had a chance to talk to Mayor Haskell, but not specifically about that. But the universal feeling was that it's probably the right thing, since the town doesn't have the resources right now or the trained people to hand it to us. So I think we should propose when we get to that part of the meeting, I'm going to suggest that we propose that the responsibility for the AM radio transfer to us and then come up with the list of things we need to make that work, which will include physical access for the worst case, but putting these other things in place that you outlined, probably including its own internet connection that won't just get arbitrarily screwed up by an IT group that is just worried about other things.
I quickly add, Craig, that if we do that, which I think is a reasonable option, we need to have more than Ray. If Ray's out of
Absolutely,
town, we
yeah.
really need a team of people who are going to be able
There-
to do that.
Well, there's a handful of people in this room that have that capability and have that training. We could expand it however many people want it, but there's enough. I feel that there's already, I can think of 3 of us that know exactly how to do that without any further training. And we would,
We can't actually vote on this because it's not on the agenda, but I think a letter needs to go to the mayor that says, this is what we are proposing, and we would
I mean,
appreciate
maybe,
a response.
maybe. I mean, I think we can. We're doing feedback on the priorities later.
Communications is a standing item on the agenda.
Okay. then
Yeah, and I think
would-
when we get to that, we're gonna, I'm sort of previewing, but I would guess we will vote as a committee that we want to take that on, that we believe the early informal communication is supportive. So let's just propose it, that that's one of the things we are going to do and then get a blessing for it. Also, there was a discussion about forming a subcommittee of the town council to work with us. And I think we should push that forward as well, because that gets us the constant communication we need to resolve things like that. There were comments from audience. Here we go.
Yeah, just like to make a quick comment on that. Woodside Fire would be welcome to assist you guys in any way, and even possibly hosting it at Station 8 if that's a possibility. So we could talk further about that, but we should probably talk with the town and see if we can come up with a good plan.
Right, but that, I mean, that makes a lot of sense too. I think you're one of the primary users, and I think part of the, policy procedures of who can authorize a message change. Okay, a good possibility. Any other comments from anyone? I think we save that then for when we're discussing the priorities. Okay. Ray, thank you again, and I'm sorry for the intense frustration. I guess while we're just beating this horse to death, it goes way beyond, right? I mean, I think about the effort that went on over even just the past months to get the antenna repaired, right? We asked and asked and asked. We got no help. I don't even know if you've ever been repaid, but we finally
Never been.
just rented
Never got
rented
paid.
a cherry picker. We got help from the fire department.
Yep.
And a group of people got together and repaired the antenna on our own budget because it's important and we just can't get any attention or help. So I think getting it transferred to us is a
It
good
does strike me,
solution.
does strike me odd if I just could say, the guy showed up at 1 o'clock, that's fine. He had other things, I'm sure. But he spent an hour with me. We worked on it for an hour.
Yeah.
We talked to the boss on the phone. Everything was cool. And then I left and they just took it out. I don't get the unilateral decision-making that this person believed they could do. In
Okay.
business,
Right.
that would be a firing offense. Anyway.
Well, I guess
Lack-
the word that strikes me, Chris, is accountability. I mean,
I was going to say lack of ownership.
that,
Right.
to the extent, whoever this person is, and so if they had the authority to do this, is there any accountability? Without belaboring it right here, I certainly hope there's some way to find out why this happened so that it doesn't happen again.
Or just take, the thing that we're worried about, take it off of that system and let us worry about it. And we'll get it right. And
Right.
make sure that it's accessible. Yep. Okay. That's item 3. It must be 8:06. That's gonna be so, why don't we then move to item 4, which is discussion of the priorities and the action plan? I did attach a copy of the presentation that was given to the town council. I really appreciate the support. Many members were there. Many members from Woodside Fire were there. Obviously, the town council was there. They were very engaged, asked a lot of questions. I got, since then, I've had people reach out, so Helen Walter, our liaison, reached out to me. We had a good, long, productive discussion. I happenstantially ran into Mayor Haskell. We used the opportunity to have a good discussion. Craig Taylor reached out to me. We've had a good, long discussion, and the interim town manager just reached out to me like the day before yesterday to set up a meeting. So we're getting response, we're getting engagement as we might hope. And hopefully this is the beginning of a new era, 2025, and we'll set these priorities and move forward.
There's just a quick question.
Yes, sir.
So is the concept of a subcommittee to follow up on these priorities, is that a central part of the conversation, or is it too early to tell?
I think it's too early to tell. And I can say that of the 3 people I talked to, that came up with 2 of them, and they were in favor. And I don't know the general sense of the council. I think that's something we have to just go back and ask for. I think it would be a really positive thing if we had that ongoing subgroup of the
Mhm.
town council that we could work with, because things like this do come up where it's above our pay grade, essentially. We need direction. We need direction. And we can't grant ourselves access to it, but if the town council thinks it's appropriate, they could hand responsibility to us. They could give us a key. They could let us put the network in for our systems, things like that. Let's review maybe the 4 top priorities, and then I want to skip the first one because it'll absorb the entire time, which is, item number 1 was discussion about the evacuation plan, which did garner a lot of response and discussion at the meeting. And I'm not saying we should just ignore it. I don't think we have time for it today. Number 2 was a review / rewrite of the EOP and EOC procedures. And I think that was met with general agreement. And it's another example of something where we just need input from the council. We can't make the decisions how you want the EOC staffed, but we can help write the policy and procedure once we know how the current town management is thinking about that, because that can go lots of different, across the spectrum, from all staff to all volunteer to including CERT. And please, a comment? Yeah.
I don't want to assume, so I want to double check that you guys are working with the county on your EOC planning.
No,
We're not working with
there's
anyone right
nothing.
now. Right. We're waiting to hear that is something you'd like us to work on.
Great.
There's a little
Okay,
bit of
just so that-
history,
I don't want to assume, so I wanted to ask.
right? Yeah.
Thank you.
There's a little bit of history where we work on something before we get it explicitly approved, and we find we spend a lot of time, and it's not something that the council wants. We work for the council, so we want to make sure we're doing what you want.
I mean, just to be clear, the town could not open the EOC right now if it had to. There's no EOC, there's no EOP, there's nobody trained on the EOC. Some of us here took training, 10 years ago to open the EOC. And that time was all volunteer. A prior town manager decided it was going to be all town staff in the EOC and went through training and cut us out. All those people are gone.
Right. They're both valid approaches. We just need to decide. And that we need guidance. That would be something the subcommittee could work with us on. Give us guidance. We can have a working discussion, the pros and the cons. How do we leverage the abilities of CERT, which has come a long way since the last time we looked at this. They have training. They're ready and willing to open an incident command post. Then you could consider that the operations arm, in fact, of the town EOC if you want. There's lots of ways to work this, but we need some guidance on philosophy, and we would be happy to take that on. And we're going to continue to recommend that be one of the priorities for the year. And then we had the communication issue, which largely centered on the AM radio, sort of prescient to how difficult it would be. We thought we might even have a chance of having it fixed, but no, and it needs fixing. It needs fixing sort of fundamental level. Again, we need a policy agreement, et cetera. And then there's a second piece to that, which is it's been about a decade, and that's an approximation, since we have reviewed the equipment and the procedures for contacting the county. Right, so there's some radio equipment in the radio room closet. I haven't been in the radio room closet now in a long time. And it's the backup for when the standard internet connections, et cetera, go down. There is a radio link. The amateur radio community practices it every Tuesday night, but it used to be part of the procedure. That's how you got in touch. The town EOC got in touch with county DEM via that same radio system. We have to look, is the equipment up to speed? Is that still the correct policy and procedure? And I think that's another really good priority for this committee to work on. Any comments or questions on anything I've said? Your timing and presentation skills are excellent. I'm good. So I guess I would suggest if we have
What's number 4?
is the evac plan, right? No, number 4 is then it was a placeholder for the safety element.
Right.
Not because we know what to do or what will be required, but it was just our belief that that will probably bubble to the surface during this year. And it felt like it was something we could probably contribute to in a significant way. But again, we need guidance. And there wasn't a specific proposal there, just that it probably was something we needed to bookmark time for later in the year. So those were the 4. I'm open to a couple different things with a little bit of a recommendation. One is question answered. We do have our town liaison, council liaison here. We could ask some questions of Helen if we wanted to, or get some input. Or we could move to kind of maybe, I'm trying to think, how do we now take those proposals? Let's take the AM radio one, for example, and turn it into a proposal to the town. Here's what we think. We've had the informal conversations and write it up in a way that makes sense, that we think is the right way to go, and send it to the town to say yes, but we want to work with you on these areas.
But aren't we still looking for guidance as to what is the next step that would be productive to move this forward in the optimal way?
Right. We are looking for guidance. But I also don't want to wait for guidance. Again, my life's experience when I'm presenting to my board in a company is you don't say, what do you think we should do? You say, here's a proposal, or here's the 2 proposals that we think are most likely, and you put it in front of them. And then they vote and ask questions and ask you to go back and do something. And so I'm thinking, at least on the ones that there seems to be, from my conversations, there seems to be general agreement, we could go ahead and put together a proposal. It's probably not likely to waste a lot of our time, because it's probably going to end up in a form much like where we start, I think.
But might I suggest, I really like the idea of 2 people from the council, because if we come up with a proposal and the 2-person subcommittee is in agreement, that means you already have 2 people on the council who are going to support it.
Yeah.
And then then the rest of the council will probably go along, and you're going to defray a lot of back and forth discussion and send you away to do more rock fetches. So I absolutely agree with the 4 goals. And I absolutely agree that if we give them a proposal on each of the 4, but we're going to need some guidance.
Yep.
And even like on the EOC, I know what I would propose, but if we propose that at least verbally to the council subcommittee of 2, and they say, well, maybe not, maybe this is better, fine, we can change the proposal at that point and save a lot of time. So that would be my suggestion.
Yeah, no, I think that's my request as well. So maybe what we do and again, I'm just throw this out to the committee, but we do, and in parallel, we actually go back and say, look, we had a discussion about it and we think that's the best way. Would the council consider a subcommittee? And see if we can get that, approved. A subcommittee of the council to work with us on these issues. And in parallel, while hopefully they come back with a yes, we begin to at least work on one or two of the proposals. I mean, I'm thinking of the AM radio. It's a hot topic. It's current. What if we formed a subcommittee of this committee to actually write that up? This is what we think we want. And hopefully in parallel, the town council subcommittee comes together, and that can be the first thing we work on. We can form a different subcommittee to work on one of the other issues. What do people think about that approach?
I think it's a great idea. And I would nominate Ray because he's got so much energy left after this frustrating experience on the radio side of it. And I think it would be a productive use of our resources to the extent we identify those priorities to do exactly that, to move it forward. We need a motion to do that, or just can we decide this by consensus?
I think we have a communication subcommittee, and maybe what we do is we re-verify the membership of it. And who do you believe is on it, Ray? I think I'm on it. Are you not on it? Oh, yeah, okay. Okay.
Yeah, see that? Shh, don't say anything. Oh,
Is that a
would be great.
reasonable?
That was a midnight draft.
So that's an existing committee. We re-verify the membership, and we ask that committee to write up a simple proposal for.
The only thing I'd add, Craig, I think they need to advise us that they will commit staff time and budget to help us do those things. It seems like we've presented ideas and plans and recommendations for a long time, and we've never been able to pull them off. It would be really frustrating for a couple of board or council members to say yes, but then not have budget for it, not prioritize it so that staff can actually give the time to get it done.
I agree. I mean, one of the things about that proposal is we're actually proposing that volunteers on this committee take on the time required to actually do the maintenance and license upkeep, et cetera, if it gets formally transferred to us.
Messaging and all.
And so I agree, there's probably a budget associated, and that subcommittee, I would suggest, should take a swag at what the number of dollars would be needed to successfully implement it. And I mean, I would go as far with the subcommittee, charter them to explore the idea of placing it at the fire station. That's a new one and I really like it. Again, if that's something the town is on board with, but it seems like it's a sensible. So do we need probably we do, right? Maybe we should vote that that's what we want to do. For the communications committee made up of the members we discussed, we're asking them to write a proposed plan for volunteer committee member control over the AM radio and to explore the idea of potentially putting it at the firehouse as an option.
So move.
Can I have a second? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. The other half of that, which I said we want to do in parallel, how do we go about causing, or at least causing a vote on whether or not there's a subcommittee of the town council to work with us? We'd like to ask for that. Looking at, yeah.
Okay. So obviously I'm a staffer in another city, right? And you guys don't have staff. So usually a staff person would help guide this body, right? You don't have it agendized in this officially. But if you want a subcommittee, you can do a straw vote, for instance, right? It's not a recommendation, a straw vote that you guys are asking for a subcommittee of the council. I will say that we, in our pipeline, this fiscal year ends June 30th. Right, June 30th. So we are setting our agendas and prioritization. And I know that wildfire safety and safety for the town is one of the top 3 that seems to be percolating for everyone. I know it's one of mine. So the structure going forward, because this town is in a deficit and we're on a shoestring budget. I'm definitely, I'm writing up notes to bring to the rest of the council. And how you guys want to move forward is up to you. Does that make sense? And the prioritization, I believe, my guess is wildfire safety and safety in general is going to be one of the top 3 and a priority that the council will then direct staff. But as you guys know, we have very limited staff to make things happen right now, and it's tricky. So I'm just calling a spade, right? So that we're all on the same page. I'm frustrated too. So a lot of us are frustrated, but God bless the staff we have, and they're keeping the town together. I don't, but again, I'm a baby council member, and we're, the prioritization of the last council is what they're still, focusing on. Does that make sense?
I do have a question. It does make sense, but it seems to me we've got to move to that next stage. We've talked about this, and I think what we need to do is to move to the stage that somebody from this committee meets with somebody from the staff, and we do an evaluation of those things, of those priorities that are workable or not, and what that time frame is, recognizing the limitations that are there. And I think we're beyond the talking stage. We're ready to do that. And if basically the town councilors do this, then we'll feel we're obviously acting in accordance with what their wishes are. So we need some help here
Yeah, no, I understand.
because
And
the limitations of our charge.
yep. And, for instance, the evacuation plan, right? Like, not MTC, I'm sorry. The San Mateo County Transportation Authority has a call for projects right now. One of the calls is a bike ped, and it's Measure W that we all 20 cities in San Mateo get some money for, right? The reason I'm bringing up the bike ped is we could double duty, multi-purpose, bike lane safety evacuation route situation. And that could be some money that, if you guys wanted to look at that, I need to send that to your chair. Right. And we, for those of us that live here, we all recognize that evacuation is a key problem, right? How to solve it. Let's look for solutions. Let's be innovative. Let's, bike lane or something as an evacuation route. But we know it's a problem. The past council knew it was a problem. People have been working on it. Sheriff contract, the trifecta of sheriff contract, housing element over cost overrun, staff leaving. It's a tricky time to get things done. Okay. So I'm sorry. It's a lousy situation. Right. So let's try to find solutions. Like we could apply for Measure W funds. We all pay those sales tax. We all voted for it. It's a 30-year bond that we get money from. But it's going to take staff potentially or people on, that kind of situation on your body to do the application. The applications are not that hard, but you generally need some engineering behind it. And we don't have a town engineer right now. So that kind of thing. But my guess is there's someone in town who might be an engineer. Something like that. But and we are doing this coming Wednesday. We are doing a donation policy. I haven't seen it yet. It's just, that's all I know about it. It might be outside of the town. It might be to a 501c3. I'm not sure the structure that's being proposed. So that's another idea to try to get some funding for, to move the radio, to figure out an evacuation plan.
I think what we're specifically asking, could we get a subcommittee of 2 council members?
Right.
For example, we can write, let's take item number 3, is it on the EOC, EOP? We could write those documents here. We wouldn't need a consultant, but we need some decisions.
Yep, I get
And
that.
we don't need any staff time.
Right. So I can't speak for the entire body. I am one vote, right? So if you guys want to ask for it, we also have 18 other committees, right, to work with. So my guess is, I don't even want to guess. I don't know. I can't speak for the entire body, right? You guys can make the recommendation. I can bring it to the council.
Good. Well, I think that was really the questions. What's the best way? In the past, we were perhaps more informal. We would simply ask our liaison, who would then go back and come back next time and say, yep, the council was a great idea. Here's the people on your
Right.
subcommittee.
If you guys if you take that vote and make that recommendation, I am happy to take it to the council. I'm writing up notes as you guys discuss things, and I will bring it back, and that's right.
I think that's what we would like to do. So,
Yeah.
as you pointed out, maybe it's not explicitly on the agenda, although I think it probably does fall under action plan to implement the priorities. So I'd like to have the
So moved.
move to request of the town council, a subcommittee that would work with us on these issues. I hear a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we'd like you, Ellen, if you would, to please bring that. And just for clarity, I did talk to Craig Taylor about it yesterday. He was on board, at least initially. I'm not trying to, it was an interesting conversation, and he wanted to explore that idea a little farther. Understand. We're not asking for a commitment, just if you would go push that along. And part of the sales pitch is we're selling that we're going to take some things off your hands and get them done. Okay.
I just would like to make a comment. Helen just mentioned that the town council will have a high priority on wildfire. And the wildfire committee has 3 people plus me as a liaison, and they are now meeting quarterly. So if wildfire is a priority of the town, and we are the emergency preparedness committee, but we are not thinking about that, maybe we should think about.
Can I just clarify
yeah.
something also? When I say wildfire, it the town council has not set its priorities because the Los Angeles fires. I'm guessing that might be one of the priorities. Okay, we have not set our priorities yet. So I just want to clarify the situation. I'm guessing. I don't know our priorities yet. Okay, thank you.
Good. I would suggest, given the time, that we content ourselves with having gotten through one of the 4 priorities. We actually have a proposal on the table. We have a subcommittee tasked to do some work. We have sent a request to the town council, and that we close that out for this meeting, pick it up again next meeting. And in the remaining time, we do have the fire department here. And we'd love to hear any reactions to anything we've said, or your standard reports. And sorry for using up the time on
Thank you.
things.
Once again, sorry, Kim, our fire marshal, couldn't make it today. She's out this week. And then Selena as well. She won't be available for a short time coming. So I'll give my brief little summary of what's been going on in the fire department. As you guys know, we had the Palisades fire start January 7th. Woodside Fire sent a total of 8 employees down there on different roles, basically. We sent a strike team the day it happened. They got down there that night, worked for like 50 hours straight the first day they got there. They stayed down there for a total of 14 days, 15 days, I believe it was. Sent a secondary strike team that second day as a leader. He led one of the strike team to task force. We also sent 3 members as a part of a USAR task force 3 deployment. Their objective was search and recovery. started at Malibu Beach, started working their way up. They did that until the LA County resources could upstaff their task forces, and then they, so our crews all came back as of January 22nd. Had a lot of interesting stories that actually came out of that. And if you guys, if you go onto YouTube and you see some of the fire videos that were posted there, you can really see, how home hardening and vegetation management makes a difference in some of the locations. But again, that fire was so unique, being a blowtorch effect, that anything in its path, was at risk of burning. We saw a lot of that. And then locally here, just January 19th, we had a pretty significant call, not here in Portola Valley, but in Emerald Hills, where we had a structure fire where our team from Engine 19 helped Redwood City and rescue a paralyzed person out of a house that was on fire. They actually had to carry that person out of a window, which was good. No sustained long-term injuries or anything, but I'd just like to mention that. So it was a pretty significant call for our guys to attend. For Woodside Fire in 2025 here, we have a lot of things happening in our district. Right now, we're doing a recruitment for new firefighters and lateral firefighters. We're doing promotional testing. It's going to come up this year for captains and battalion chiefs. We have labor negotiations going on. We're going to be celebrating our 100-year anniversary. Flyers will go out for that pretty soon. Our district's 100 years old. We're going to have an open house and a special anniversary. That'll be on March 22nd. We're renewing our strategic plans for our district. We do that every 5 years. So that's to determine our long-term fiscal sustainability, improve our communications, embrace technology, improve efficiency, standardize administrative functions, improve employee relations and training, and ensure continued ability to provide high-quality service and excellent response. So my first time going through that process, so we're hiring a consultant to go ahead and do that and help us go through that. So we'll be reaching out probably to the towns to get their input as well. So apparatus, we have a brand new fire engine that just arrived in Sacramento. They're doing all the mounting and bracketing and radios for that. Almost $1 million for a fire engine. It takes almost 3 years to get. So luckily we placed an order, like I said, about 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, and we're finally getting our first one. They say it's still due to the COVID and all that stuff that slowed down. So that's kind of what I have for my part. As far as some of the prevention stuff, I wanted to pass on that our chipping program will start back up in May. And this is kind of new. We're going to do a sign up. All our information is obvious on our website. It'll come out, in you guys as well. Everybody usually gets that, but it's a scan and sign up code now. So yeah, that'll be starting in May. Let's see, N5 sensors. Kim wanted me to pass on. So you guys are aware of our N5 sensors that we had installed through that grant with Stanford and Palo Alto they paid for the funding. We're paying for the upkeep for it for 2 years. It's a pilot study. A couple of weeks ago, we had a couple of sensors actually went off. One was for a controlled burn pile. The other one was for a flare that was being used on 280 for a car accident, multiple flares on the highway. And the sensors actually picked up that, sent a text message to our fire marshal and our on-duty BC that triggered them to go look at where that indication was happening. It's a great piece of technology. It's brand new. It's an AI type of thing, and we're still learning how that is actually working. And I just heard there's another community close by. Where was it? It's in the South Bay somewhere. I think it was somewhere else in the Santa Cruz Mountains that they're going to start implementing these too, just to see how they work. So pretty exciting news. We'll see where that goes for that. Fuel mitigation, they got a lot of stuff done this year, 60 piles, 60 cubic yards. Like I said, chipping will start in May. I know the latest CERT class just started with 25 students. I think that's being held in the ranch. Yes. And I know Kim's got a bunch of workshops and Firewise stuff prepared for this year. That's all I have.
Just
Thank you.
Question. I believe what we call the Cal Fire Map is out. They are out.
That I was in a fire chiefs meeting yesterday, and for our part of the mapping, it should be out by the 20th of this month. We'll see. We'll see. They keep pushing it back and back. So we're waiting for that. So hopefully by the 20th, we'll see something in it. And then we have to do 30 days of public outreach once we get that. So we'll be promoting that in the public outreach.
Could you just explain why the change in the chipping procedure? Or is that
You know what,
too
I'm not
political
100%
to-
sure. I would have to ask him why we changed that. But I think it's just going to be easier for people to sign up. We're still going to be going down those streets and doing it, but I would have to double check with her. I will let you know. Right. We still, yeah, if they give us a call, well, I'm sure we'll probably take it.
Just
And-
one
and
quick
do-
question on the home visits. I think there was a report last time of the non-responsiveness of a number of the residents. I wonder if there's any update on that at all.
Yeah, so we're making a little bit of progress on that. So basically what happens is we go out, we knock on doors, people aren't there, we put out a flyer. Hey, give us a call, let's schedule an appointment. That's where we're kind of meeting the resistance is people are not calling us. So what we're doing is recontacting. There's only so much we can do on our end. We can't
Right.
obviously, go into a person's property without their authorization. So for us, we just keep going and moving forward and with contact.
Is that improving at all? or
It
it's-
is, it's improving a little bit, yeah. So we're working our end to do on that. And then the county is also, I got a report from Shruti at DEM yesterday. She came to our chiefs meeting. The county evacuation plan, they are still working on that. So you guys know they terminated their consultant they were using with that last year. They're doing it in-house, have a couple people working on it. We're supposed to get a draft for that plan for the county in May. So that was the latest I heard on that one. And then also our local hazard mitigation plans will be due by the end of 26. So those will be working on as well.
Well,
Lots of-
thank you as usual
Yep. you're
for
welcome.
everything you guys do. Let me ask you one question on the chipper program. Have I read the new flyer correctly? You chip it, but you don't take it away. You leave us.
We do in some cases, but we try to put it somewhere on site that's obviously not going to be close to a resident because, yeah, the 0 to 5 and our ordinance that we have to follow. So a
Okay.
lot of times we do chip it and we take it away and it's very time consuming and obviously very expensive too. So, yeah, it's kind of, it's one of those things. We try to do the best we can and then not create a fire hazard at the same time.
But it's not a case where there's a sort of pile left that
No.
you would help
No, it's usually
distribute
scattered.
it to someplace that's appropriate within
Yes.
all the new guidelines for hardening, et cetera. Excellent. Okay, thank you very much for that clarification. And thank you again for everything you and your whole team does.
You're welcome.
It's amazing. All right. I think that brings us to subcommittee reports. We already heard from Ray. Anyone else have anything?
Yeah, I'd like to just add something. So I listened to BPTS last night, and Ed is here. Just a real quick comment or idea about the signs that we try to put up for 1680.
Yep.
I understand that your committee, Ed, is looking at signs in general. I'm wondering if it makes sense, and I asked the committee's ideas about this, if it makes sense to talk with Ed about the 1680 signs also, since they're looking at signs in general.
Seems to me that might make sense. Certainly no harm in talking about it if you're willing to share your expertise and let's solve the problem once instead of twice individually. Yeah,
Sure, I'll get with Ed and let him know what's going on. and give him the
we might
report
have
and
an
so forth.
objection here. Peter.
Just a quick comment, Craig. I don't know if you're aware, but if you are a fire safe community, you get these fairly large signs that you can post on the roadway. So somehow the town is allowing signs to get put up when the cause is worthwhile. So I'd keep pushing that.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent. Any other subcommittee reports? Okay. Our next meeting is then scheduled for March 6th. Off the top of your heads, anybody have an issue with that or look like we'll have a quorum? I don't have any conflicts that I know of. Okay. And that brings us to item number 8, which is to adjourn. Thank you very, very much and look forward to continuing this process. I do feel like we're off to the races here.
Some traction.
We're getting traction. It's early in the year. We're setting priorities. Like I said, the engagement, both giving us time in front of the council, I really appreciate, and then the engagement since then has been really positive. So, all right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.